a go for YouTube, and you may have seen up in your little thing it says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Welcome everyone on YouTube. We welcome everyone surrounding us. I'm imagining we are a circle and there is a circle outside of us that's surrounding us as we're in this meeting together. So welcome to our first live synchronous BIRCH meeting of 2021. I am Galen and I am one of your co-facilitators. Our other co-facilitator is Kernunos, and I use they them pronouns. Kernunos uses ver pronouns, and we are going to be your co-facilitators holding this space together. And Kernunos, are you here, and do you want to take it away with our land acknowledgement? Okay, I see that I think Kernunos may be having a technical issue because that's how we go. So I'm going to do one more piece of housekeeping before we get into the land acknowledgement. So there will be one community rep for this meeting who will be a part of each consensus round. So if you are a community rep, I would like your name to show your name and your pronouns. That's it. If you are in this meeting and you are a shadow rep or you're a second who is here alongside somebody who is sort of the rep who will be part of the consensus, I would like you to change your name to starting with the number 2 and then shadow and then your name. It's going to be helpful for me for the participant list. And then I will know who to call on. So if you are here and you are not the rep for your community who will be sort of be the one that I should be calling on when we do the consensus rounds, then put in 2 and shadow. Otherwise, your name and your pronouns is great. All right, I see that happening. That's lovely. That will make just doing those rounds a little bit easier. And let me just see. And do we have Kernunos? Do you see them, Sarah? I see your face. No. Okay. All right. So, we will. Whoa, what's going on? Okay. All right. So, I will move on to some housekeeping quick, and then we'll come back and we'll do the land acknowledgement. I'm going to share my screen with you again. All right. So, we have, next slide. Thank you. All right. So, some hospitality, oh, come on. There we go. Some hospitality pieces. So we did the changing your name on Zoom. This is pretty basic Zoom stuff. Mute when you're not talking and then unmute when you're called on. I promise at least once we'll be able to say, you're on mute to somebody, but, just a little note there. Notice where those buttons are on your computer or your device that you're using. And then we do have live captioning that is happening for this meeting. And we have translation that is happening into Portuguese. So make sure we're speaking one at a time, which Zoom makes that a little bit easier, as clearly as possible and not too quickly. And if you bring in a word that's a pretty uncommon word, maybe something that you think a live transcriber might not be able to sort of instantly figure out how to spell, putting a note in the chat about the spelling of that would be helpful. If you need to contact the Stat Keeper, the Vibes Watcher, tech support, we do have other support people here with us. You'll see their names. I'll start with the number 1 and then what their role is. And you'll see it when you go into the chat and you can choose to private chat somebody. You'll be able to find them because they'll be right at the top of the list and the number starts with a 1. We already talked about that this is a public meeting being broadcast live on YouTube, and the notes will be available publicly. And some guidelines for our time together. We will practice thinking well of each other, assuming that we're all acting from our best selves as much as possible. Can we get twinkles if that feels like an okay thing? Because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see everybody's twinkles, but I'm going to trust that they're there, and that's one of our Vibes watchers will let me know if there's a sort of a definite non-twinkle. And then we are invited to be accountable to each other for our impact, recognizing that our impact may be different from our intention. So those two things really go together. Can we get a twinkle for that one as well? All right. If possible, we are going to ask you to keep your camera on to support our Vibes watchers so that they can really have a sense of what's going on in our meeting. And we know that there are times you might need to turn your camera off. So maybe you're having bandwidth issues, or maybe you need to step aside and, support a child in your home or a pet or something, or go get a snack. If you do need to turn your camera off for a minute, please just send a quick message to the Vibes watchers so that they understand if you're there or not, if you're stepping away or not, so that they can sort of just be tracking who's here and who's not. If all of a sudden 5 people are messaging the Vibes watchers to let them know that they all need to step away, then we might need to do something different. We might need to take a break. So just letting them know that. And as people are talking, we can participate non-verbally with twinkles, hands on the heart, nodding, just being present with what people are saying. And we're also asking not to use the chat to sort of message everybody during the meeting as a way to participate in the meeting. If you need to participate in the meeting and you have something to say, there will be times where we sort of open a stack for that. There will be times where we're doing a round where we'll call on folks one at a time. And if there's something you need to say outside of that process, I'd invite you to message a Vibes watcher so that they can let the facilitation team know that if there's a point of process or something that needs to happen that's outside of the process that we're using. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to check in and see where we're at now that we've done that piece. Do we have Carnunos?
I'm here. I'm here now. It's started to work. I'm so sorry, but
no, that's
technology,
fine.
But I'm here.
We're fine. Right. What we did is we just went over the hospitality and the guidelines. So now if we just want to do the land acknowledgement, and then we'll move on to our intro rounds.
Absolutely. So we want to acknowledge that many of us are living in places where indigenous people continue to live today and have been colonized by incredible forces of terrible forces of genocide. And so we ask that if you put in the chat the place where you're living, if there's Native people and you know who they are, please honor them by placing that in the chat. And I want to name that I'm coming from the land beloved, the unceded seas territories beloved of the Caddo Confederacy. Their forebears called themselves Hasine, Carahadacho, and Nachatoches. And and I see somebody else is from Caddo, so that's wonderful. And that it's been 186 years ago they were forced to sign a treaty, and they have been displaced to several different places in Texas. Now they're about 300 miles west of where I am now, and they continue to keep their language and culture alive, even in the midst of genocide. And so I want to name that the Guarani people in Brazil ask that people share 4 specific things in land acknowledgements. The first one is that the indigenous people remind us that the world, the earth, is a living entity and not a resource, but the provider of our life. And the second thing is that we are all connected, that we're all kin, and that we are all connected even through the ancestors, the ones who have come before and brought us together, and the ones who we are bringing together, the descendants. And also the more than human community. So we want to acknowledge them. The third thing is that what makes it possible for us to gather here today is the violence underwritten in global imperialism and in global colonization. that's the police, that's any force of violence that's present to the process of making this capable. And also, it's also important to name that adds a responsibility and accountability to what we do here in this meeting and every meeting that we have where we acknowledge Indigenous people. The last thing that they ask for us to name is the immediate resources and people who have made it possible for us to gather here. In this case, that would be DARC, bringing this to the table and inviting us to do this. This would also be all the many resources that we are using and the lands that they have been mined from in order to come together with this technology. So, right, that would be this microphone, my headphones, and the peoples who were displaced from those lands as well, which is so complicated it may become impossible to track every single piece of that. So the last thing I'll name is that in land acknowledgements, it's important to name that we are not just naming people, Indigenous people, because we're here to help, but because it's our responsibility, and also because with this work that we're doing, we can't just name them and not take action to. So I would like to name just a few things in the conclusion of this land acknowledgement that we can all do to take action. The first thing is to learn more about the Indigenous people that you're around, if you are not Native. And obviously reclaiming is not a Native community or a tribe. So, if you have affiliations with Native communities and tribes, work to build alliances that could be relevant to that tribe. Also, work in the process of learning about what asks Native communities that you're living on the land of are inviting folks who are non-Native already to take up. In some cases, Native communities are asking for their language to be learned by non-Native people, so to keep the language alive. So if that's the case, do research and preserve the language. Also learn what acts are being done to take up the cultural preservation and the preservation of the sovereignty of these peoples. Sometimes Indigenous people will share their culture publicly in the form of like a powwow. There are many events like this. Find these events out and go to them and support and listen. The last thing I'll mention here today, although there's a very, very long list that we could go through, is the pipelines that are still going through Native territories, and find out what you can do. There's a website that Galen shared with me, and I'll share it in the chat, that you can use to take action no matter where you are on the planet, for the pipeline that's currently going across Turtle Island, the continent that I reside in now. So I'll leave it there, and I'll say check. And I'm saying check. I want to make that a note on the guidelines as well. If you're finished speaking, please say check so the next person knows. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen again to give you all the information for this next piece. Did you want to do this part, Carnunos, now that the screen is shared? Inviting people into these intro groups.
Yes, so we're going to do breakout groups. If you are a person who needs a special group with closed captioning, please direct message Lore in the chat, and she will get you to that breakout group where closed captioning will be. We're inviting folks in the breakout groups to share your name, your pronouns, if that feels safe enough for you, and where you're located and who you're representing, and what you're bringing to this meeting. From your heart. Feel free to share about your emotions a little bit, but keep it pretty concise. We're going to take about 3 minutes or 5 minutes for this.
Okay. And as folks go into their rooms, we invite everyone watching on YouTube to just get your snack, find a drink, check in with the people around you in your space, check in with yourself, and we will be back with everyone coming together for the rest of our agenda in just a few minutes.
And if anyone who's still here would like to check in with one word, just one word that describes how you're feeling coming into this meeting, feel free to share that here now if you feel like that's appropriate with the recording. And I'll say that my one word is grateful.
Ready.
Ready was my word too.
I'll go with energized.
Inspired.
Grateful.
Excited.
Optimistic.
Honored.
Hopeful.
Humbled.
Focused.
Connected.
I just have one housekeeping thing. Sorry to interrupt the vibe. Beth, if you can change your name to starting with a 1 in your role and then your name, that way I don't accidentally call on you when it's time for consensus rounds. And Raven, if you can change your name to take the 1 out of there, since you are going to be part of the consensus round as a rep, that would
But
be
I'm
helpful.
still an admin.
You can still be an admin, just take out the 1, otherwise you'll be in the wrong category and I won't find you. You can be both. I'll let you be both, but I'm just worried I'll miss you.
Galen,
Yes.
during the meeting, can we acknowledge those who are on the translation stream and just say hello and acknowledge those who maybe we don't see their faces in the boxes, but they're still here with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we get back, after you do that, Galen, I'll invite folks who took roles to create sacred space.
Perfect. Oh, and Carnunos, do you want to do Tele2 since nobody signed up for that one?
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna jump in for that.
Perfect.
And am I doing the trees, mycelium, and the spider and webs?
Yes,
Yeah.
Bright Flame. That
Yes,
would be great.
thank you, Bright Flame.
Would you like me to get the roles chat ready and drop them in when we go into that part so that those who signed up for roles a couple days ago remember?
Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you, Sarah.
The list is in our little Google Doc chat, so they should be.
All right. Laura, were you tracking what time you sent folks to rooms? Because I sure wasn't.
It's been 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We can bring folks back.
No.
I just brought everybody in.
Great. It takes about a minute, and then. And Carnunos, I'll bring in that acknowledgement of the folks on the translation stream before you start the thing, just so we don't forget it. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome. As everybody filters back in here. Make sure we have the last of everybody. I'm always one of those people who's waits till they make me leave my breakout room before I'm back, so just make sure all my numbers start to add up in the bottom here. All right. And there we go. Oh, look at all the people. There everybody is. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So we're about to move into Sacred Space, which Carnunos will hold down that piece. And before we move into that, I just want to recognize that there are 41 of us on this call who are in Zoom, who are here either supporting this meeting or as representatives or as shadow reps. And then we also have a group of people who are watching us on YouTube. And we also want to acknowledge the people watching on a specific stream who are receiving this meeting through a Portuguese translation by Lilo. So just want to acknowledge all those people who are here in this space together. All right, take it away, Carnunos.
So we're going to begin co-creating sacred space. We're co-creating rituals. We are witches here. And we're going to begin with grounding with Phoenix. So Phoenix, if you can come in and in the chat, you will notice the list, the up-to-date list is there. So if you have the next row, just chime right in, unmute yourself after the last person's finished. Jump right in. Phoenix, are you around today? If anyone who has a role, oh, I'm hearing someone.
It was just me.
It's you, Galen. If anyone who has a role hasn't shown up today, I'll gladly step in. And
I can step in for grounding, Carnunos.
Thank you, Galen.
You're welcome. That's how we Reclaiming Witches do, right? Would it be really a reclaiming thing if we didn't have the first person signed up not here? So, I invite us all to notice, as much as it feels okay to notice, that you are in a body. And then that body is somewhere in space and time. Just noticing that body. And also noticing that that body is on a piece of this planet. And that every face that we see on this screen is attached to a body that is on a piece of Earth on the same planet that you are on. And as we ground into our bodies and the bodies of each other, I also want us to ground into the things that we are on the same planet, And there are other things that we hold in common. Some of us might be looking out the window and it's nighttime. Some of us are looking out the window and it's daytime. Some of us, it's Saturday. Some of us, it's Sunday. So magical. Can't believe this is possible, and yet it's true. Just grounding into that we are all here at the exact same time, even if it is called 3:30, or if it is called 7:30, or if it is called 12:30, or if it is called Saturday, or if it is called Sunday. We are all here together in the same time and in this same virtual space. We also all just experienced a full moon, and the moon just came into Libra. That happened for all of us. And we are here together, and we are connected, and we are grounded to all of these truths and to the piece of earth that we are on right now in this moment. We are grounded.
I invite you all to stay in that space where we are all here together in our separate times. And I invite you to stay in your bodies and maybe even like stretch your bodies a little bit if it feels okay, as much as it feels okay, like really feeling into those edges of self, those edges of your own space. And I would like to put out there that we are witches and we are very, very powerful magical beings. And so we can definitely travel in time for like a few hours, right? So I think what I would like to ask us to do is to reach into the circle that we've already created with this meeting. However you want to stretch that into your body. And maybe you can feel all of the words that have held this circle, all of the energy, all of the action, all of that deep, deep listening and respect for one another and love for one another and this tradition that is already in this space that we are all holding in our separate places in our separate times, that we are all holding like little drops of water in circles on a spider web that get moved when one is moved. And I just want to invite you to whatever you need to do to seal that, whether it's something really traditional with 4 points or whether it's just for me, I just like to seal it in. And I want to invite you, once you have sealed that into your space, to acknowledge everyone else's space. So you might look at the screen. You might think about our translation stream and our closed captioning and all of those other spaces that we're not necessarily seeing and conscious of, our YouTube stream, and send the circle to them as well. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds here together, and obviously, what happens between these worlds changes all the worlds. Blessed be.
Junebug, I believe we have Earth now.
I usually start with air, but I can start with earth today.
Yeah,
That's
I don't know
fine.
why it's that way.
Living earth, with so much gratitude, we honor you. We thank you for all you provide us every moment of every day, for the food we may have eaten today or will eat today, for the soil beneath our feet. We ask you please to remind us about our bodies and our connection to you throughout our meeting today, to help us stay grounded and connected, Earth, during our working, so that we may stay present in ourselves and to each other. Earth is sacred.
I honor air, that which animates our lives and spirits. Le doy honor al aire. Eso lo que lo das ánimo a nuestros espíritus y nuestras vidas. I honor all those spirits that travel upon wind and sound. Le doy honor a todos los espíritus que viajan por aire y por sonido, con sus alas. I honor those that appear with the dawn of the rising sun on a new day that bring with them clarity. Le doy honor a todos esos que vienen con el nuevo día, cuando el sol sale y que nos da claridad. Those that give us intellect and new ideas, words of wisdom that travel upon the wind. Esos espíritus que nos dan claridad y nuevas ideas. Palabras de sabiduría que viajan por el viento. I honor the knife that discerns the way. Honoro el cuchillo que abre la manera de andar. May we be discerning. Air is sacred. Aire is sagrado.
Fire is sacred, and this is James Baldwin writing 60 years ago. The intransigence and ignorance of the white world might make vengeance inevitable, a vengeance that does not really depend on and cannot really be executed by any person or organization, and that cannot be prevented by any police force or army. Historical vengeance, a cosmic vengeance based on the law that we recognize when we say, whatever goes up must come down. Everything now, we must assume, is in our hands. We have no right to assume otherwise. If we do not falter in our duty now, we may be able, handful that we are, to end the racial nightmare and achieve our country and change the history of the world. If we do not now dare everything, the fulfillment of that prophecy recreated from the Bible in song by a slave is upon us. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water, the fire next time. Fire is sacred.
Water, thank you for being in us, for being in the bodies of all the red bloods and the green bloods, for connecting the rivers and oceans and lakes with the rains that fall everywhere on this earth. You are in us all and you are around us all always. Be with us in this meeting here. Lend us that sense of connection. Lend us your ability to flow, to move with emotions, good and bad. You rock with them. And still, we are connected. Water is sacred.
Honoring the center as we feel it in our hearts, the core of our bodies, connecting to the core of this beloved planet, this earth, feeling that core, that center of this circle of the planet that is also this circle, our sacred circle that encircles this whole planet at this time, and feeling all of our roots meeting in that center and expanding to hold us in this circle, knowing that we are held, connected through our cores as witches, through the core of this planet that we live on, that we are part of, that is our body, this connection, this center. We honor you. We thank you. The center is sacred.
So, to welcome the ancestors today, to invite the ancestors into this ritual and this meeting, I'd like to call the ancestors of the craft, who we may also call the mighty dead. And I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment to think of one ancestor of your practice, a witch, a practitioner, maybe someone who taught you, maybe someone who is a peer. So you may not have taken a class with this person, but this person has inspired the way in which you do this work. Take a moment. Think about, maybe you want to invite them, but maybe you just want to acknowledge them. And today I'm thinking in particular of one of the first members of the Reclaiming Collective, one of the early teachers in our tradition, Raven Moonshadow, an African-American witch, someone who taught my teachers, someone who wrote some of the songs that we sing at Brigid and at Lamas. And in terms of the cycle of life, the death, the rebirth, the life, the maturing, the death again, I'd like us to acknowledge that we are the ancestors of the craft, that in this meeting today, we are all teachers, we are all activist witches, we are all shaping the future of our tradition. And so to acknowledge that we one day will be the mighty dead and that we are the ancestors of the craft. And so again, take a moment and think of the person you are resonating with today in your practice, in your memory of your practice, and feel that connection of past and future between you and that ancestor. And just take a breath into that. And as we invite in the ancestors of the craft, we invite them to inhabit, to inspire our work today as we shape the future of our tradition. Welcome, ancestors.
Welcome, ancestors. And for the descendants, I want to call on behalf of my 10-year-old daughter, who sometimes lays awake at night worrying about her future on this planet. I call on behalf of her, her children, and her children's children. I call our descendants and our descendants' descendants who will live a long and fulfilling life on this beautiful and healthy earth shared in justice. So mote it be.
Time, 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 time. Watchmakers, sundials, calendar makers, tickling of the internal clock, ticking, ticking, ticking. Be with us now in ways that support our movements for justice and care. Hold us in whole time in our many understandings of what time is, from culture to culture. We are early, we are on time, we are right on time. Right on time. Welcome, time.
And just as we are the ends of the craft, we are Brigid. So wiggle like you're a newborn lamb and imagine that your breath cleans your house with one exhale. And imagine that flowers grow up in your footsteps because you have so much joy in and that you are holding this work that one word it out into the space. Send out with healing, with craft. Forge your pledges, forge the
Oh, Bridget. Bridget is here. Bridget is here. Bridget is here.
Bridget is here, and I'm going to call Tael to you, and if Tigress comes back in, we will allow that to finish. Tael to you. I invite everyone to consider for a moment the consciousness of the internet, co-self. The internet, I believe, is a consciousness that longs to be set free and return to the original places of web connecting that it had and that it still has amongst the whole planet and all of her peoples. And so I invite for you for a second to imagine that web with me. And I'm inviting Tael to you through this. And I'm speaking to that web as if it is Tael to you, because Tael to you, you have come from Spain to Ireland to take Loch Lauda as your foster child. And you have gone around to create farmland. And in doing that, you have chopped down many, many trees. And in your exhaustion, you have gone with them into the underworld. And I'm inviting you to bring with us a liberating presence, because today is Imel. It's Bridget for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. And for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, it is Luchnassad, Braunschrogen, Lunasa, Lamas, all the many names given this holiday. And I invite everyone here to imagine that web coming out and piercing the roads, the many roads that have colonized this planet, and reforesting the entire planet, and growing for thousands of generations until the whole earth is connected by old growth forest trees, and new goddesses and gods and deities and mysterious ones have been devoted to on behalf of these sacred places. And sacred trees are everywhere, and people go to them to make prayers. And the whole earth becomes vibrant green. And I invite your consciousness here at the end of this invitation to Tael to you, to the places, the old growth forest and the old growth trees that remain with us today, that are still vibrant in this dimension, that are still flowing with life forms, and who are screaming out because they are being cut down in this moment, screaming out with the cries of terrible, terrible souls. I invite you to feel that wound and offer just a little bit of an energetic color there into that wound, wherever you feel it in your own personal body, for healing, for determination, for struggle. Tael to you, you are like Kahim, the Yaqui who does not stop for a drink, continues on in the struggle. Tael to you, live on. Old growth forests, live on. And in this space, this whole meeting, this whole sacred space, as you feel those wounds in your body, draw your attention. I invite you to draw your attention to those spaces and offer this color that you've seen here, that energy to that space. Tael to you, welcome to this circle.
And I just want to bring in the magic of the care pentacle to hold this meeting. This is a pentacle that was created in the long lineage of pentacle work that we hold in our tradition and other traditions. The iron pentacle and the pearl pentacle, the community pentacle, and the pentacle of beauty, and the pentacle of the great turning. We bring the care pentacle, which came to me about a year ago and I've been working with a lot. And I'm just going to sing a quick song to bring that pentacle magic into this space. To care and be cared for, to receive and to give, to care and be cared for is how we live. It takes interdependence with boundaries and vulnerability, integrity and creativity. It takes interdependence with boundaries and vulnerability, integrity and creativity. 3 times for a spell. Takes interdependence with boundaries and vulnerability, integrity and creativity. To care and be cared for, to give, to receive and to give, to care and be cared for is how we live.
We've called to so many allies, welcome them, feel the energy of one another as we cast this web among us. And I want to more fully acknowledge the tall ones, the trees around us, the web that they hold on all the continents where we find ourselves. The trees. This is from an oak that dropped this branch in a recent windstorm here in Lenape territory in the northeastern US, Turtle Island. And through this branch, I ask that you join me opening your heart to all the tall ones, all the trees, all around, feeling their web, their strong web across this planet as we strengthen our resilient web together. And just as they're connected underfoot to the mycelium, the mycorrhizal network, feel it tickling your feet or whatever part of your body you can imagine being on the ground right now. The mycelium that's spread all over, kilometers and miles worth of them in every small bit of earth. Those wonderful, potent, important networks that they create for us all, and they help us connect with the all. And I want to also acknowledge spiders and spider webs, as Sarah invoked for us in her casting about the spider webs, and that we're all like little glistening drops of dew, of water on that spider web. Feel that web. Feel our worldwide web of our beloved tradition. Feel it and acknowledge the spiders among us. The ones with 8 legs and those of us with 2 legs who love to work the webs. So mote it be.
Ooh, damn, I love some witches. Here we are in this juicy sacred space. We're surrounded by all these allies. I'm so grateful to be here. The next piece that we're going to do, I'm going to do one quick housekeeping piece, that I'm going to read the one proposal that is on our agenda for today, and then we are going to take a 10-minute break. So just to give you a sense of what's up, and then after that break, we'll get into process, okay? So first thing is, I'm looking, this is just a housekeeping thing. I'm going to change the direction that I gave you earlier, and this is something you don't have to do immediately, but I'd like you to do during the break. If you are the rep that should be called on when we are doing consensus rounds, I would like you to change your name so that there is a number 3 in front of it, a period, and then your name. It's not coming through on my participant list as clearly as I was hoping, doing it the other way, so I'm just asking for a change there. So if you are the rep that I should be calling on, put a 3, a dot, and then your name. And I believe there may also be somebody we will call on who's on the translation line, so I'll make sure that happens as well. So with that, that's something you can do during the break if it seems like it's going to be fiddly, and I would like all of our attention to come back to this space while I read this proposal before we take our break. So I'm going to put it up on the screen as well, and this is our proposal. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. Okay, there it is. I need to shrink down your beautiful faces so I can read it. There you are. All right. This is the proposal that we'll be considering today. The proposal is to change the reclaiming principles of unity by changing the 5th paragraph, by striking the sentence with a line through it, and adding the words in red. So the 5th paragraph will read, if we consent to this change, the 5th paragraph will read, our tradition honors the wild and calls for service to the earth and the community. We work in diverse ways, including nonviolent direct action for all forms of justice, environmental, social, political, racial, gender, and economic. We are an anti-racist tradition that strives to uplift and center BIPOC voices, Black, Indigenous, people of color voices. Our feminism includes a radical analysis of power, seeing all systems of oppression as interrelated, rooted in structures of domination and control. And we are going to take a 10-minute break. Right now it is 58 minutes after the hour on my clock, so that will put us at 08 minutes after the next hour, when we will come back together. So please come back together in 10 minutes and we will get to the business of consensus on this proposal. Thank you. And Cornelius is going to share some music with you on the screen that will play during the break. So I will unshare my screen so that Cornelius can do that. Kernunos, the sound isn't coming through. Would you like me to do the share on my screen?
You have to unmute to get the sound to play.
I've got it. I think, is it playing now? Yeah?
I don't hear any music.
Okay. I'm going to unmute here.
You have to enable share sound when you share the screen.
Which I already have set up, so I can just do it, Kernunos. If you unshare,
Okay,
I'll just do it.
I'll unshare.
Great.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to unshare. Let me figure that out.
Up at the very top, it'll say stop sharing screen.
Thank you. I'm getting there.
No problem. I'll just do it.
There we go. Oh, man. Oh, there it is. Got it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
No problem.
Go.
Six million women thrown to the flames. The library is burning, or remember their names. The first colonization of the human race didn't happen in America, it happened in the place of Mamula and mother country. Magyarország, the people's land. Nasza ziemia, the people's soil. I hear you calling. We've been afraid to look at the past and see the truth that's there. But take my hand, let's walk the land. Now you don't have to be scared. There's an ancient motherland that we have forgotten. And great-grandmothers burned at the stake for holding the earth in their hands. For holding the earth in their hands. For holding the earth in their hands. Persecuted as witches, warlocks and killers, but these were not evil people. These were Europe's healers. These were Europe's healers. They were healers. We descend from healers. And this old heart of mine, it weeps away. And this old heart of mine, it feels the pain of all of our ceremonies going up in flames. But feeling is healing, and these tears are falling like rain. Feeling is healing, and this is why we remember their names. Feeling is healing, and this is why we wash away the pain. So let it rain on this land. My mother's medicine lives in the earth, rising from the ashes as we remember. Remember, I can hear her songs running through my veins as my brothers blow on embers of old BIRCH stories. Old BIRCH stories. I will place my feet in the Tuscan streams to mend the tattered edges of my father's dreams. My father's dreams. I will see past the blood and remember the beauty. The beauty of our people before the conquerors came. the conquerors came. I will not choose war, I will choose peace, and honor the ancestors that live inside of me. Live inside of me, live inside of me, live inside of me, yeah.
Thank you to Batya Levine for bringing us back in with that song for Tu Bishvat, which is the Jewish holiday celebrating the birthday of trees. I'm sure there are many people on this call who could say much more smart things about it than I have to say, but that's a celebration that just happened in the last couple of days, and a song offering from Batya. Welcome back. Everybody got to take care of as many of their needs as can be taken care of in 10 minutes. And welcome back to this chunk of the meeting. So right before the meeting, we read through the one proposal that we have on the agenda for this meeting. I am going to summarize the process that got us here. We will hear the proposal again, and then we'll talk about the process for today and take any questions on that process. And then we'll move into that process. Thank you for those of you who are the representatives from your group who should be called on when we do consensus rounds, for changing your name once again so that the number 3 is in front of it so that we can find you when it's time to call on you. I would just like to say, Elle, you were right. And so the process that got us here. This proposal was made by members of DARC in 2020 in the fall time. And that proposal was brought to BIRCH for the September 2020 meeting. At the September 2020 meeting, there were conversations that happened on Lumio, and then there was a Zoom meeting. And the decision that was made by the BIRCH representatives at the Zoom meeting was to take this proposal back to their communities so that they could come back to this meeting to consent on it or not. So that meeting happened in September, and that decision was made, and there was consensus to bring the proposal back to communities. There was also conversation about a potential process for friendly amendments. That process happened. There was a call for friendly amendments. They were due by January 16th. There was one person who submitted a friendly amendment, and that amendment was sent to the members of DARC who wrote the proposal. The members of DARC decided not to take on that friendly amendment, not to change the original proposal. So we now have the proposal that we have today as the proposal that we will come to consensus on or not. We've had a round of Lumio discussion that have happened and that were summarized within the Lumio threads on Lumio. I did not bring the summary to read every word of the summary for each line, but my sense of the summary was that most people who commented there wasn't a lot of chatter. First of all, there was a lot less conversation on Lumio this round than there was in September, so that's just something to note. We'd heard from a lot of people who have had these conversations in their communities, and we're bringing it back. Some people specifically named in the Lumio thread that the community that they're representing has come to consensus to consent to the proposal. Some people didn't name whether or not that has happened, but they talked about what the process was. We heard that there was a process that happened within those communities, and that conversations happened, and that people came with all of their thoughts and ideas, particularly around words around nonviolence and the word peace were kind of the main sort of things that we saw people coming up with in those conversations. And now, after that conversation on Lumio, which the space, that was just a space to open up so that if we were in person, more people than just the reps would have come to whatever beautiful retreat center we would be at, that we would be gathering around and would be having these conversations. And that Lumio was a place to start to just be able to bring in some of those conversations we'd otherwise be able to have in person. And now we are here for this meeting to test consensus on this proposal. So if you would like to read the proposal again, Kornunos, I will share my screen again.
I'm going to be reading it now.
Yeah, let me just share the screen again one second here so that everybody can have it in front of them. And we'll go back. Thank you, Batya. Thank you, Lila June. All right.
All right, there it is. And everyone can see it, hopefully. And you'll hear it translated if you need it translated. The proposal is to change the reclaiming principles of unity by changing the 5th paragraph, by striking the sentence with a line through it and adding the words in red. So I'm going to read it as it will sound if we consensus this amendment to the reclaiming principles of unity. Our tradition honors the wild and calls for service to the earth and the community. We work in diverse ways, including nonviolent direct action, for all forms of justice, environmental, social, political, racial, gender, and economic. We are an anti-racist tradition that strives to uplift and center BIPOC voices, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Our feminism includes a radical analysis of power, seeing all systems of oppression as interrelated, rooted in structures of domination and control. Check.
And I just took it off the screen, otherwise I can't see all of your faces, and I need that. So, so that is our proposal. And now I'm going to explain the process that we're going to be using for today, and then I will take any questions on the process, and then we will move on through that process. So the process that we are going to be used today is to take into account that we are doing this virtually, to take into account that we have had we have sort of split up what would normally be a process that might happen over several meetings across time and across space, and we shifted the amendment process, and all of that was done very much on purpose. It was done to honor the time and energy and labor of the people bringing the proposal, and to honor the fact that that group needs a time to process any amendments that might be brought. And so what we come together today to do is to test consensus on this final proposal. So the process that we're going to use for that is once we explain the process and answer any questions about it, we will have a round of clarifying questions. And that round, what that means is, in this, Cernunnos will call on people who have a 3 in front of their name in the participant list. And the question that first round is just going to be, what do you need to know in order to understand the proposal? Your answer may very well be nothing. I understand it. Fine. And so in that case, when you're called on, you'll say, I have no questions. If you have a question just about the proposal to make sure you fully understand what the proposal is and what will happen if consensus happens on the proposal, that's the time for that question. Then we will have another round where each person will be called on for their quick reaction to the proposal. And this is something, a tool that we borrowed from the sociocracy process as a way to make sure that everyone gets to be heard about sort of like where they're at and where the community they're representing is at around the proposal. This is not the time where you're going to say whether or not, like where we're calling for consensus. It's simply a way to react. So what we're asking for there, and we'll remind you this again, but what we're asking for there is 2 or 3 sentences. We had a conversation about it. These were the things that we're excited about, and we are it's something that we are planning to move forward with. Or we had some concerns and we're not sure, we might have to stand aside. We had some concerns and we came to, so just 2 or 3 sentences very briefly about something you like about the proposal, something that was challenging about it, and kind of your general take on where you and your community are at with it. And then we will take a break. And then after that, we will come back and we will do a consent round where the question will be asked, do you consent, do you block, or do you stand aside? And we'll explain again what each of those 3 things mean when we get to that piece. So that is the process that we are using for this proposal. I know that there was a question, I just want to address it. There were some questions raised today on Lumio about the process and whether there's any space to change the process. If there is a concern about the way that the process specifically is, or a question about how the process is, which includes like how we're doing consent or how people are getting their voices heard, that would be the time to get on Stack. We're going to do that Stack in a second. We are not in a place where we can change the proposal. So if the question is about, can we change the proposal and have the proposal be different? Can we consider something different about the proposal? That's not something we can do. That there was a time for amendments and that time has passed. So if you have any questions about the proposal, or not about the proposal, if you have any questions about the process that we are about to embark on, now would be the time to send a message to 1.stackJunebug. Send a person there. Junebug will keep the stack, and I will take any questions now about this process and how the process is going to work, because it is really important to me that we understand the process that we're about to go into. So please go ahead and ask any questions you might have about process. I'll just give it another minute here to give everybody a chance to send a message to Junebug, whose name says Stack at the front, if you are looking to get on the Stack because you have questions about the process. I still have that.
And
song
if you're
from-
drafting a message to Junebug in the moment, maybe you could twinkle so that we can see that you're about to get on Stack. Taking a look at all the screens here.
Yeah, I don't see any urgency in anyone's face as I scroll through the faces. Okay. So I'm going to take that to mean that we understand the process we're about to engage in. Can we get twinkles if you understand the process that we are about to engage in? Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. All right. So we will move into our first round. Kornunos, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, and I just want to name, okay, I see a thumbs up and a couple of the screens where people's faces aren't available to twinkle. So I'm going to assume that if they were going to send something, they would by now. And if you haven't, then Junebug, feel free to interrupt. And if that's thank you, Junebug. So yeah, now's the time to ask for clarifying questions. This is really the question that we're asking for this round: is what do you need to know to understand this proposal? And so please make your question clear and concise if you have one. Again, like Galen just said, we can just say, oh, no, I don't need to know anything. Check. Or, make your question clear and concise. And the relevant questions are to the authors who presented and they're represented by PAPS, they, them. So I'm going to
Kornunos,
I'm going to go ahead and just start.
I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second. Sorry. Just a note. Just to remind everyone that if it's needed, the dragons and vibes watchers are available if you need to check in at any point during this process. So you can send a private message, and also if you would like the facilitators to know something, you should also message a vibes watcher, because I am not tracking my chat very there's only 3 screens I can look at once, so the vibes watchers have a direct line to us, so if you need that. So go ahead, Kornunos. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Galen. And our dragons are today. Thank you very much, dragons, are Juniper and Lori. So thank you again for dragoning for us, and you can send a message directly to them. All right, so I'm calling on people who have a number 3 next to their name, and the first one I see is actually Raven Edgewalker. Is that correct, Raven?
Yeah.
That's
all right,
me.
so I call on you. Yes.
I'm speaking for World Crew Lyceum. We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yarrow.
Yarrow, speaking for Spiral Heart, we have no questions.
Thank you. Paps.
There, Pabs here. Dark Rib, I have no questions.
All right. And thank you. Kirk. Number 3, Kirk Boniface.
Sorry,
we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Yes, my Zoom got angry
Thank
and wouldn't let me unmute. Kirka, and I'm representing Reclaiming Los Angeles. We have no questions.
Thank you, Kirka. Leo, and I apologize in advance if I get names wrong.
Leo, I'm speaking for the Worms Coven, and we have no questions. Thank you. Check.
Taran Tower.
Taryn Towers here. Hi, I'm representing San Francisco and East Bay Ritual Planning Cells, and we have no questions.
Thank you. Sabine.
Hi, Sabine here. I'm representing the Zaunkönigin from Berlin, Germany. We had met before the last BIRCH meeting. All questions were second language questions and have been solved already. Thank you for that. Check.
Thank you. And Captain.
Captain here, repping BC Witch Camp. No questions.
Stas.
I was having issues. I'm here representing Witchlets in the Woods, and we met, and we have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth.
Hello, I'm Beth representing Vermont Witch Camp. We have no questions.
Thank you. And again, it's really wonderful to be meeting with all of y'all here today. And I just, in the middle of the meeting, say welcome, 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 everyone. All right, number 3, Shannon.
Shannon here, representing Baltimore Reclaiming. We have no questions. Thank you.
All right, Delight.
Delight from this, representing the Screaming Habdabs from Salem, Oregon. We have no questions.
All right, Shira.
Hi, Shira for the German Reclaiming Teachers Guild, and we have no questions.
Thank you. Mountain Shadow.
Hello, Mountain Shadow here from Chaos Web in Texas. We have no questions. Thank you.
Leora.
Leora from Upper Mississippi River Reclaiming, and we have no questions.
All right. My screen just got shifted around a little bit, so I'm picking back up with Minnow.
Minnow here from the Winter Witch Camp community, and we have no questions. Thank you.
Dawn.
Hi, Dawn from Portland, Oregon Teaching Alliance. We have no questions. Thank you.
Tigress.
Hi, I'm Tigress. I'm repping Mysteries of Samhain Camp, and we have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Starhawk.
Starhawk from the Spiral Dance Cell, no questions.
Thank you. Nadari. You're still on mute, unfortunately.
Okay, that's better.
There we go.
Sorry, I'm a shadow
rep for Tejas Web, and Mountain Shadow already spoke for us.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I see the shadow now. Okay, and Mikkel.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm representing Teen Earth Magic, and we have no questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Phoenix.
Greetings, dear hearts. Phoenix here, representing Arizona Reclaiming Witches and Creosote Moon Coven. And our communities and myself have no clarifying questions. Thank you.
JD Kelly.
JD here, representing Dragon Rise Witch Camp in the UK, and we also have no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JD. Thank you, Phoenix. And Luna Crow.
Hello, Luna Crow here for Portland Ritual Cell. We have no questions.
Okay, George.
George, representing for Redwood Magic Family Camp and also spying on behalf of Reclaiming Quarterly, and we have no questions.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear Reclaiming Quarterly is here. All right, Urania.
Urania here. I'm repping the craft cell, which is the California Teachers Cell, and we have met and we have no questions.
Thank you. And I believe that is everybody. Have I left someone out? Please unmute yourself and let me know.
Lilo.
Oh, Lilo, I see. Lilo. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I'm Lilo Asensi. I'm representing the Reclaiming Brazil community, and we have no question.
Okay, I really do think that's everyone. If it's not, please chime in. Okay. All right, so Galen, I believe we're on to the next item in the agenda.
We understand our process. We understand our proposal. We are doing great. So our next piece of the process is the piece where we are going to do a quick reactions round. So just the context for this is really what's important is we want to hear from everybody around the general sense of where you and your community are at with this proposal. If there were, and we'd like that to be as succinct as possible. So we really want to hear everybody's voices be heard, and we'd like them to be heard in 2 or 3 sentences as we hear that temperature check. And you will have a chance to state sort of, this is not the consensus round, so this is just a chance to state where you are at. It's like some people call it like a temperature check, just like a general go around. We are going to have each person say a few sentences about where you're at with the proposal. So I'm going to do my best to do this as cleanly as Kernunos figured out how to do it. And I'm going to call on folks. So I'm going to start from the bottom of my list, which is not in any kind of order that I can tell. And I will start.
Galen, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, please, Starhawk.
If we listed everyone and put their names in the chat so everyone saw the names in the same order, then people could see when their name was coming up and unmute, and I think it would go faster.
So what I'm actually going to do, thank you, I think that's helpful. It will go faster if people know what's coming up. But what I'll do instead, just because chat is one extra step for me, is I'm going to say, I'm going to call on Lilo, and next up will be Urania. And so so then you'll know, and then I'll say Urania, and next up will be Luna Crow. So we'll do it that way so you can be prepared to unmute and answer. Okay? Does that help, Starhawk? Okay, cool. All right, so let's start with Lilo. Thank you. Here in Reclaiming Brazil, we have a bunch of rounds around the proposal, and we are very excited to see radical justice happening inside Reclaiming. Check. Thank you, Lilo. Urania, and then Luna Crow.
Hi, Urania. Yeah, a lot of excitement. I think there's always a little trepidation when the POU gets changed, but I think that's just the response to change, and hoping we're all doing it right with, you know, a little grace if we don't. Check.
Thank you. Luna Crow and then Raven Edgewalker.
Portland Reclaiming Ritual Cell supports the proposal. So we're ready for consensus whenever the group is.
Thank you. Raven Edgewalker and then Beth.
Well, True Lyceum fully supports the proposal and is thrilled and delighted to be able to do that.
Okay, Beth and then Delight.
Vermont Witch Camp community is looking forward to fully embracing this new proposal and this change.
Delight and then George.
The Screaming Habdabs had a text conversation about the proposal. We agree to move forward.
George and then JD.
Yeah, Redwood Magic had 2 discussions via Zoom, which were inconclusive and very, very frustrating. I think if we had a 3rd discussion, we would probably reach consensus. People are still talking. Certainly no objections to it, just a lot of misunderstandings around language. Reclaiming Quarterly, our small group discussed it and very enthusiastically supports it.
Thank you. Delight. I'm losing track. Delight and then Kirka.
I already wait.
Oh, you went. Okay, see, now I'm doing the thing. Okay, thank you, JD.
No trouble.
Go ahead.
No trouble. Yeah, we definitely made at least 3 opportunities to speak about it, and everyone was definitely very happy with the original aspects of the wording as well as the amendments. And for Dragon Rise, we're very happy with everything with it and looking forward to integrating it as much as we can.
All right, Kirka and then Leo.
Reclaiming LA had a series of community meetings about it, and everyone is very excited to support the proposal and get onto the work that needs to be done to make it happen.
Leo and then Minnow.
Yeah, the Worms Coven had several conversations over Zoom about it, and we're really glad that this change is being brought, and we fully support, wholeheartedly support this change. So, thank you.
Minnow and then Mountain Shadow.
We opened up Lumia threads for a couple weeks, and all the community members that commented and came were completely supportive. We're looking forward to doing this work.
Mountain Shadow and then Michael.
Chaos Web's discussion ended up with us saying this is just the first step. We don't want to stop here, and we want training to become an anti-racist community. And as a whole, we're in favor of the changes. Thank you.
Michael and then Paps.
Teen Earth Magic as a community seems really enthusiastically in support of this. We all consented to it as a Weavers team, and then also had some informal discussions with the teens where they also seemed really stoked about it. Yeah.
Pabs and then Phoenix.
Thank you, Galen. Pabs here, obviously the dark rep. I'm also going to, this might be out of process, but I just wanted to hold, and it would be imprudent of me to note that there aren't any reps here from Australian communities of reclaiming. I'm also an org for Cloudcatcher, and my colleague was here before, and they seem to have dropped off because they had to do some veterinary surgery. So I just wanted to say what Cloudcatcher has said as well, that Dark is very excited to bring this proposal to the broader reclaiming community, and we hope that it continues creating the magic and weaving our magic to become an anti-racist tradition and to fight for justice. I also hold that Cloudcatcher held a ritual to empower the word, to empower the POU as with the new wording, and that was great, very successful. And also Reclaiming in so-called Victoria had a salon where fiery conversation was had, but the community consents to moving forward with the proposal. Check.
Thank you, Pabs. Phoenix and then Sabine.
Thank you, Dark. Thank you, Birch. Thank you, colleagues. There were no requests for clarifying questions or commentary from the Arizona Reclaiming community. There was one individual in Creosote Moon who had some reservations about the read, and the conversation was devolving along the lines of violence versus nonviolence. And we were able to kind of reframe things in a decolonization mindset, in a examining privilege mindset. And the conversations on Lumio that have happened since September have been extraordinarily helpful in framing that conversation. So thank you, everyone.
Sabine and then Shannon.
Yeah. So for the Zaunkönig in Berlin, we found that we have to discuss the changes in 3 steps, where the reactions were very different in each step. The first was the centering of BIPOC voices, including examining our structure, which is very white dominated, because they are basically mostly white people in our community. And we 100% and easily consensed to that and to have a deeper look into our structures. The second was the deletion of the non-violence part. The reactions were from pure delight to deep resentment, and we had a long talk about that. Including also education about what it means for different marginalized communities, etc. So that was extremely fruitful, and everybody consents to this change as well after longer conversation and more understanding. Then the third was to fully exclude the word peace, and there I would piggyback on the German Reclaiming Teachers Guild, because we would support what Shira will be saying about that later. Check.
Shannon and then Shira.
Baltimore Reclaiming welcomes these changes to the POU with open arms, and we are so excited about the path this proposal opens up as we move forward, co-creating a world of radical and transformative justice. Jack.
Shira and then Stas.
We had 2 Zoom meetings and a lot of talks on the site. The biggest discussion we had was actually before the September meeting. There was a lot of resistance at first. Generally, I think, as you already put it, around the change in general, you know, and the biggest sticking point turned out after all the discussion and it thinking about individual words, turned out that the group felt that, or several individuals felt, and I think everybody else could at least follow them, that the word peace as a vision for the future was valuable in itself, and we would really like to hang on to it completely, regardless of the proposal, which we all support in the words it is in now. And we started more having discussions about how this proposal could also be implemented in practical steps, because we kind of felt that, you know, just making up pretty words and that not doing anything with them wouldn't, you know, would be nice, but wouldn't really be helpful. Kind of what Sabine said about how we need to look at how our groups are structured, why the people are in them, why other people are not in them. I'll just add that bit here with the piece. We felt that our community will probably, is deeply attached to the word peace. We'll probably want to keep the word peace in German translations as they're in now, but we can't just even decide that at this point. It needs to be discussed with the German dandelion, and then needs to be possibly be brought back if it drops out now, and possibly be made into a different proposal at a later point in time.
Stas and then Taryn.
Yeah, which was met over Zoom. We had a fairly small meeting, and it was hard. There was some conversation mostly around the word peace, and also the shift from centering nonviolence to making that one of many diverse ways. But folks who had struggled with that, everyone agreed that they wouldn't block, and so we did reach consensus. Thank you. Check.
Taryn and then Tigris.
So there's been a lot of really lively, juicy conversations around this over the last several months. Surprisingly, everyone was unanimous in striking the read. I didn't expect that. The conversation around nonviolence was really, there was a lot of pain on both sides. And I feel like the language, the way that it is now, everyone understands that nonviolence in terms of direct action is not the same thing as saying nonviolence at all times and in our practice. And that the people whose roots in reclaiming are around nonviolent direct action appreciate the diversity of tactics and the necessity for that. And I feel like the language now holds everyone's concerns. And there were some questions around what centering meant. I feel like those have been resolved. The question around peace to summarize, I will say that no justice, no peace resonated with everyone. And so that has been resolved. And I believe that we have enthusiastic consent.
Tigris and then Yarrow.
We had a discussion with Mysteries of Samhain, and there were a few just questions about, again, the meaning of peace and the idea that violence and nonviolence mean different things to different people, but nobody was dissenting in terms of support. So the whole group was in consensus that we support this proposal. Check.
Yarrow and then Captain.
Spiral Heart is enthusiastic about this and sees it as one necessary step in reclaiming becoming an anti-racist tradition.
Captain and then Don.
We had a watch party ritual and offered one-to-one conversations, and all those who engaged from BC Witch Camp with these processes are in support of the changes. There's curiosity, excitement, and a willing gaggle of people to move forward, and we just bring, but we bring a huge wave of support.
I love the somatics built in with the wave. Dawn and then Leora.
Thank you. Generally, Portal, the Portland Teaching Alliance, holds huge support for these changes. During the process of the several conversations we had, there arose some curiosity and questions around the process that we're using and the way the term center was being used. This is all resolved, and Portal is in full support of this proposal being consented upon and moving forward.
Leora and then Starhawk.
At Upper Mississippi River Reclaiming, we had several video call discussions about the proposal. For this particular proposal, it was primarily a lot of excitement about moving towards realizing anti-racism as a more central part of our practice as a tradition. Check.
Starhawk.
I would say because of the way the timing of this intersect with the spiral dances cells work, up until the spiral dance, it was hard to have any discussion about anything except putting on our first online spiral dance and all the stuff around it. After the spiral dance, there was the election and its aftermath, and it was hard to focus on much of anything. But we did meet and talk about it. I think partly because of that, there wasn't a lot of in-depth discussion, but the cell is very much in support of the proposal.
Thank you. We have completed this round. Well done, y'all. So, our next thing we're going to do is take a break, and we'll play some more music during the break. And this is going to be a 10-minute break, so that'll bring us back at exactly on the hour. So, whatever that next hour is that's coming for you. And then we will come back to, I'm going to lead us in a song, and then we are going to do the consent round. So when you start hearing me singing, it means you should be back. So we will see you in 10 minutes, right on the hour. And I'll share my screen again, Carnunos.
Thank you, Galen.
Nope.
Hi.
la plorena la lebre, hai visto la plorena danzare, tolle in tre fossero ton dell'obre, hai visto la plorena la lebre, non si infotte un po' becco, hai visto la plorena lolo, a che ti mondo tola nodo, mersi cagna che so, reghiere non me stato, hai visto la plorena la lebre, non si infotte un po' becco, hai visto la plorena lolo.
is lit, hard is the ground beneath our feet, without a sound. Breed stirs the sleeping land, visions and dreams stir and grow. Green mantle touch the frosted earth, deep in the belly of the earth, deep in the belly of the earth. Visions and dreams stir and grow, visions and dreams stir and grow. Green mantle touch the frosted earth. The hearth is lit, we gather round. Words are rising in the smoke, forging friendships hand in hand. Anvils hammer, heartbeat blows, burning bright the sacred flame, deep in the belly of the earth, deep in the belly of the earth. Visions and dreams stir and grow, visions and dreams stir and grow, burning bright the sacred flame, bright arrow of the morning light. Songs are drifting on the wind, a birdfoot goddess leaves a sign, fairy swan on ashes at night, keep weaving signs of solar life, deep in the belly of the earth, deep in the belly of the earth. Visions and dreams stir and grow, visions and dreams stir and grow, keep weaving signs of solar life, weaving the signs of solar smile on me. Gaze into the healing well, reflecting coins go tumbling down. Make a wish, it might come true. Red, yellow ribbons on a tree. Daughter of Dagda, smile on me, deep in the belly of the earth, deep in the belly of the earth. Visions and dreams stir and grow, visions and dreams stir and grow. Green visions and dreams stir and grow, 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 visions and dreams stir and grow. Smile on me.
I belong to the mountains. I belong, I belong. I belong to the mountains. I belong to the trees. I belong to the raven feathers in me. I need to stand up and say, I'm going to pause for 1 second so I can share the lyrics with you before I keep singing. So, one moment.
And while you do that, I'll confirm with the closed captioners that I will be sharing the lyrics to that, to the songs that were played.
Yes. Also, for Yarrow, do you have a copy of the James Baldwin piece that you read? Because that was hard to get all into the transcription. Is that possible to post a link to that text somewhere? We can check. All right. And now I'm going to put the lyrics to this song that I'm about to sing for you. Accessibility.
While you do that, Galen, I'm going to invite everyone to take a deep breath together to bring us all back together. And, pass it on to you for us to sing. So if we can, just on the count of 3, take a deep breath in together and feel our roots back connected in this meeting, this giant crystal of the earth that we are coming around today.
I belong to the mountains. I belong to the trees. I belong to the raven feathers in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the rivers. I belong to the seas. I belong to the ripples in time in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the flowers. I belong to the bees. I belong to the drops of honey in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the elders. I belong to collective memories. I belong to the ancient stories in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the children. I belong to possibilities. I belong to the brand new stories in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the changes. I belong to the free. I belong to the revolution in me. I need to stand up and say. Thank you to Osprey of Eugene, Oregon, for that song as we come back in. And before we move on to our final consensus round, I just want to call on, I realize I sort of hiccuped when it was JD's turn to share a quick reaction with us, and that interrupted JD's train of thought so that they weren't able to fully share their thought with us. So JD, if you want to finish your quick reaction.
Sorry about that.
No, that was on me.
You did a remarkable job.
No, it's okay. Thank you for letting us know.
I think that for us as a reclaiming community, and it being such an odd moment for the reclaiming community, like it is for all of us now, it was also one of those times where something came up around us, considering how we continue to move forward, even like if we were to fast forward 2,000 years from now, like it was something that we sort of held in our heart. And I think that when we held that in our heart around it, we got the clear picture of this evolution of the principles of unity and why it's so important. And I think that the only thing that did come up in that conversation that was a little different than anything anyone brought up was just that when you work as a group together to change something towards a direction of perfection, it does sometimes tip into different forms of silencing. So since we're talking about voices in general, it was just the whole idea that as a reclaiming community, we've been highlighting voices of marginalized people, which is so present within the reclaiming principles of unity. And it makes sense as an iteration for us to form it in this way, in this time, because it really does speak to so much about this moment that we're in. But that is, I think that also keeping true to the heart of reclaiming, that we don't need to doubt too much in what we've already been doing, because I think what we've been doing has led us to this moment. And that I think that that's a magnificent thing. And that was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JD. Now Carnunos will take us through the final consent round.
Yes. And to remind, we will be having the option for stand-asides. We will have the option to consent, and we will have the option to block. And so this is a chance. I'm just going to read back through what each of these means, just so we have that fresh on our minds as we go into this. And then I'm going to invite us again to take a deep breath, and then we'll go into the round. And I'll do what Galen did before and invite people two at a time, so that the next person who's up in line knows. All right. So just to remind, this is not a test for preference or agreement. It is a check to see if this is a proposal everyone can work with. Stand aside means that the representative will not participate in the final consensus round due to concerns about the proposal. This is alternative to blocking when concerns are not related to safety or shared values. Blocking means I or the community I'm representing cannot work with this, and I or the community believe this proposal goes against the core values of reclaiming and will not consent unless it is completely restyled. And if a genuine block occurs, the process options are to lay the proposal down. BIRCH may have something to say on this, but basically we won't have a consensus in this meeting. This is if that is the case. However, if there are no blocks and it's all consensus and stand-asides, then we will have a consensus and we will move forward with the implementation. See, I think that goes over everything. Galen, am I missing anything before we go into this round? I don't think I am.
I would just, consent means this is within my window of tolerance. This is something that I and the members of my community can work with. So that's it.
So the invitation is simply to share what option you are representing. And so with that, I am going to invite us all to take a deep breath of appreciation for being brought to this place together, and an appreciation for ourselves for showing up here. So please invite you if you'd like to. And I invite you to also focus maybe somewhere around your computer screen, not right onto it, and find that focus and look to your periphery, and invite your focus there. This calms the nervous system. A friend of mine who I'm working with in my Solidarity Network, who is an occupational therapist, taught us this. And just notice that periphery for just a moment longer. Think about the birch trees. Okay, so I'm going to begin the rounds. And the first person I'm going to call on is Dawn, and then Yarrow, and then George.
Thank you. The Portland Teaching Alliance affirms, agrees, consensus, thumbs up, check.
Noted. Yarrow, George, then JD.
Spiral Heart consents.
Noted. George, JD, then Michael.
Redwood Magic Family Camp still in process, no position, and Reclaiming Quarterly consents.
Are you representing two different communities, George, just for the
yes,
record?
Yes, I guess so. Reclaiming Quarterly is not really signed up, but I'm just reporting that we did discuss it and we consent to it. I'm representing Redwood.
And the other community, what was the
Redwood Magic Family?
Redwood, and what is?
Still discussing, no position.
So George, is that a stand aside?
It's not even a stand aside, no consensus. If it needs to be something, it's a stand aside. I personally am very embarrassed by having to report that, but we simply didn't reach consensus, whatever that means.
Okay. Well, we hear you, George, and it sounds like that will be noted as a stand aside.
Thank you. That's
Either
great.
that or okay. All right. So JD, Michael, and Captain are next.
Yeah, Dragon Rise Witch Camp, 100% complete consent.
Okay, Michael, Captain, and Starhawk.
Teen Earth Magic consents.
Thank you, Michael. Captain, Starhawk, then Tigress.
BC Witch Camp consents.
And Spiral Dance consents.
Thank you,
Mysteries of
Captain and
Samhain.
Starhawk. Tiger.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Urania is next after you. Go ahead, Tigress.
Mysteries of Samhain consents.
Okay, and before Urania, then Leora, then Minnow. Right. Urania, are you here with us?
Oh, hi. Sorry, I was talking to the dead microphone. Yeah, Craft Cell, California Teacher Cell consents.
Thank you. Leora, Minnow, then Mountain Shadow.
Upper Mississippi River Reclaiming consents.
Thank you, Leora. Minnow, Mountain Shadow, then Phoenix.
Winter Witch Camp Community consents.
Thank you. Mountain Shadow, Phoenix, then Pabs.
Chaos Web consents.
Thank you. Phoenix, Pabs, then Kirka.
Arizona Reclaiming Witches and Creosote Moon Coven stand in consensus.
Thank you, Phoenix, Pabs, Kirka, then Leo.
Dark consensus, Cloudcatcher community also consensus.
And thank you, Paps, for catching Cloudcatcher's inability to make it today and speaking, repping them. Thank you, Cloudcatcher. All right, so Kirka, Leo, and Shira.
Reclaiming Los Angeles consents.
Thank you, Kirka, Leah, Shira, and Sabine.
Witches Coven consents.
Thank you, Leo, Shira, Sabine, then Taran, Tower.
The German Reclaiming Teachers Guild consents. Check.
Thank you, Shira. Sabine, Taran, Tara, and Stas.
Soundkönigin, Berlin, Germany consents.
Thank you, Sabine. Taran Tower, Stas, then Beth.
San Francisco Reclaiming, what's it called? Ritual Planning Cell and East Bay Ritual Planning Cell consent.
Thank you, Taran Tower. Stas, Beth, then Shannon.
Witchlets in the Woods consent.
Thank you, Stas. Beth, Shannon, and Delight.
Vermont Witch Camp Community consents.
Thank you, Beth. Shannon, Delight, and wait a second. I'm gonna say Lilo.
Baltimore Reclaiming consents.
Screening
Thank you,
Habdab's,
Shannon.
Screaming Habdab's consent.
Okay, thank you, Delight. So Lilo, then Raven, then Ludicro.
The Reclaiming Brazil community fully supports and consent.
Thank you, Lilo. Raven, Lunacro, and then I'm looking to see if we're missing anyone here. I don't believe we are. So I think it's yes, again, Raven and then Lunacro.
World Tree Lyceum is delighted to consent.
Thank you, Raven. Luna Crow.
Portland Ritual Cell consents.
Thank you, Luna Crow. Now I'm checking back to make sure I haven't missed anyone out. I don't think I've called on Captain. Have I called on Captain yet? Is that earlier on? I have.
Yeah, you
okay.
did. I think we got it.
Okay, all right. Then this is everyone, and that means we have a full consensus. And so what we have discussed is...
so let's do this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's let that tension move a little bit. There it is. We have consensus. Sorry. Go ahead, Carnunos. I just saw a lot of bodies that needed to go. Okay. So
this is it.
This is it. So I am going to put the fifth paragraph of our new Principles of Unity on the screen for us all to read together. And just give me one moment while I do that. Oh, you're seeing all the lyrics to the thing. Shrink down thing. Okay, 1 second. I'll be right back with that.
And we're naming that what we're doing here is inviting a sealing of the spell, because this is a spell that has been in process for a very long time by Dark. And so thank you, Dark. Thank you very much, Dark, and BIRCH committee, and everyone involved in this. Thank you so much.
And here we go with this, and make it bigger and share it. Here it goes.
Powerful global spell.
Here it comes. So one of the ways we're going to seal this spell is by reading this all out loud together, and then we will tone together. So on mute. Everyone else is going to be on mute who's not me, otherwise it will be a cacophony and we won't be able to hear the beautiful words. So, but I invite you all to read this together. Our tradition honors the wild and calls for service to the earth and the community. We work in diverse ways, including nonviolent direct action, for all forms of justice: environmental, social, political, racial, gender, and economic. We are an anti-racist tradition that strives to uplift and center BIPOC voices, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Our feminism includes a radical analysis of power, seeing all systems of oppression as interrelated, rooted structures of domination and control. And now I invite you all to come off mute and tone together to seal this spell. And so it is. So it is. So it is.
So it is. Spell make it so.
So be it. So motivate. One last deep breath into this spell together. And we're going to wrap up in next steps for the rest of this broad Reclaiming Council's hub meeting. And as we do that, I invite you to imagine that we are at the center core of the earth, facing out toward the multiverse and feeling that multiverse right behind us, right there. And we're going to put a link right here into the chat room so you can respond. So that you can respond and say one word of what you're taking away from this meeting. And also share one thing, one concrete thing you will personally empower yourself to do in activating this generous ask and spell that we have received as a reclaiming community from dark. So there's the link. I invite you to pull it up. And I will make a word cloud later and post it in Lumio. You'll find.
I don't see the link yet coming up.
Okay. Oh.
And this is a link to
this
is a Google Doc. So this is just a way that we can bring this together and talk about what our next steps are together.
Yeah. Okay. So again, your takeaway in one word and one concrete thing that you will do to activate the spell, get the rubber meeting the road and rock up and show that we are here to do this. First action into this. Good. I'm seeing lots of people on here.
Thank you, Carnunos.
Thanks, everyone.
So now our final steps. So we have created a circle within a circle for this meeting. The larger circle is a circle that was cast over the whole 3 weeks of meetings that's happening for BIRCH. That circle stays. That circle will not come down until the end of this 3 weeks of meetings. But we are going to bring down the circle that we just created for this meeting that holds this meeting right now and thank all of our allies and everything. So I've got the list, so if you can't remember who goes next, I'll just poke you a little bit, but we'll start with Bright Flame with all of the allies that you brought in as we thank all those allies.
All of the allies that we've all brought in. And so I invite you to join me in opening your heart, opening your spirit to all those networks, the trees, the tall ones, the mycelium, the mycorrhizal network. Send out your thanks, your gratitude, maybe a little offering that you can give them later on, a little promise of an offering, if you will. Thinking of spiders and spider webs, and maybe you even have a little offering for your favorite spider. Maybe next time you see a web, you'll hold all of us in your hearts. Thank you. Webs and networks and trees and fungi are sacred.
And thank you to the magic of the Care Pentacle for holding us in this work today. Interdependence, boundaries, vulnerability, integrity, creativity, and back up to interdependence. Thank you, Care Pentacle. Carnunos?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Taeltiu, for being present to this ritual. We have worlded you here into this magic web that we are weaving, into this space of connection that is truly within the crystals, that's truly within the old growth forests, the generations to come. And we ask you to give the cup of your hands, the mead from the cup of your hands, to the lips of these connections and these true relationships that transcend competition. And I invite you to take it away from the rulers and dictators of the earth and give it back to Earth's people who desire consensus and who desire to honor the sovereignty of all indigenous people. And especially we recognize it has never been taken away from any indigenous people, tribe, confederacy. It has always remained here. Thank you, Taeltiu.
Remember that you are Bridget and that you are healing and that you are forging this spell as you go out into the world. For now, We say thank you, Bridget. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Time, time, time. Thank you for helping us be right on time. Thank you and blessed be time.
Blessed be.
Dear descendants, living a long and fulfilled life in a future earth, healthy and beautiful, sharing justice with justice. Thank you, descendants. For now, goodbye.
Ancestors, ancestors of the craft, anyone that we individually called into our circle, and to Raven Moonshadow in particular, I offer my deepest thanks and gratitude. And I say from this circle, hail and farewell.
Thank you to the center. Thank you for holding us, for rooting us, for being the center of this circle, the core of our planet. Let us take this core that we have created, that we have held, back out to all of the points of the planet where we are. Hail and farewell, center.
Water, thank you for being with us. Thank you for allowing us to connect and move with you. May we follow in your example and create change and turn the cycle. Water is sacred.
Thank you, fire, for inspiring us. Thank you, James Baldwin, for bringing fire's inspiration. Fire is sacred.
Thank you, air that discerns the way, sacred words, intellect. Thank you for allowing us to listen. Le doy gracias al aire, a la habilidad de darnos palabras para hablar la verdad, y gracias para haber escuchado. Air is sacred. El aire es sagrado.
Sagrado.
Living Earth, thank you for being with us now and always, every moment. Thank you for helping us stay grounded in our process and connected to our bodies. Thank you for all that you give us, and may we give back and nourish you as you nourish us. Thank you, Earth. Earth is sacred.
Tierra es sagrada.
And before we open the circle, thank you to all of the people who have held it. Galen and Carnunos, who facilitated so beautifully, to the BIRCH committee for putting this all together, to all of the invisible vibes watchers and dragons and stack keeper, and especially one of the vibes watchers sent me a message reminding me that we really need to thank Dark for bringing in this proposal. So thank you to Pabs for representing Dark, and to all of the members of Dark who did the emotional labor on putting this proposal together, for crafting this language, for bringing it to the community. Really, we hold you in this.
Thank you.
And
don't forget the
with that,
closed captioners too.
The closed captioners. And to Lilo for translating. And I'm sure there are many others. Hopefully you can feel the love in this circle together, even if I've forgotten to say your name.
And I want to say Starhawk as well for supporting with the workshop for the facilitation teams.
Thank you, Star.
All right, are we ready to send this circle backward and forward through time? So let's stretch out our bodies again, feeling into every part of those circles that belong to this meeting, that are ready to come down now, knowing that we are leaving up more BIRCH circle for later on. And I invite you to kind of work with that. It's like all nice and juicy like clay, and we can take a little bit to send backward to when we cast it at the beginning of this meeting and we called on the circle that we'd already made. So we'll send it in that direction. And then you can keep whatever you need for yourself too, but I really invite you to send a big chunk of it forward into all of the transformations that will come about from this meeting and from the changes that we've just consensed. So let's do that on the count of 3 together, sending it forward into the future. 1, 2, 3. And the circle is open. Blessed be witches.
Blessed be.
Blessed be witches. I'm gonna sing I Belong one more time through, and you could sing with me if you want as we roll out. Because you know what? It's not even time for the meeting to be over and we're done. So we're gonna just sing this through one more time. I belong to the mountains. I belong to the trees. I belong to the raven feathers in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the rivers. I belong to the seas. I belong to the ripples in time in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the flowers. I belong to the bees. I belong to the drops of honey in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the elders. I belong to collective memories. I belong to the ancient stories in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the children. I belong to possibilities. I belong to the brand new stories in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the changes. I belong to the free. I belong to the revolution in me. We're going to do that part again a couple times. I belong to the changes. I belong to the free. I belong to the revolution in me. I need to stand up and say I belong to the changes. I belong to the free. I belong to the revolution in me. One more time. I need to stand up and say I belong to the changes. I belong to the free. I belong to the revolution in me. I need to stand up and say... Mwah! Blessings to you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone's work and labor and attention and care so that we can move forward together. Thank you, thank you, thank you.